On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, the four-nation roster announcements will be coming out here pretty soon, and we know that there's going to be some Colorado Avalanche players on those rosters, one of which will be Devon Toews. But should he pass on the Four Nations tournament? Let's talk about it. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. And make sure you're following us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, X, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And make sure you're following us on our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live, and subscribe to our subtext as well. Link to that's in our show notes below. And when you do, chat with Kyle and I one-on-one. We get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, which we share on this very podcast. We're going to be doing that momentarily. And I just want to throw out another reminder to everybody that next week, Kyle's driving the ship solo. I'm handing the keys over to Kyle's not riding shotgun for this one. He's in the driver's seat next week because I'll be down in Florida with at the House of Mouse, and Kyle's going to be doing some Locked On Avalanche stuff by himself. He'll be fine.
You'll get a full face of me on YouTube. What I mean,
that's true. I wasn't even thinking about that. How it's going from how we normally have it set up to you and only you. So you're gonna be seeing much more of his what's behind him. When he's driving solo.
And nobody watching on YouTube even knows that we have legs.
That is true. We do. Just so everybody knows. If you were wondering, I've only seen from the torso up. There are bottom halves to us. All right. So what we're gonna on today's episode, you see on the rundown, we will check in with the Central. We do that a few times throughout the season, just so things are going. The road trip begins in Buffalo. What are we expecting for the game in Buffalo? And at the end of this road trip, what will we say is that's a successful road trip? We'll talk about that. But where we're going to start, Kyle, is like we said, we're not going to start with the Devils beating the Rangers, even though if you're wondering why Kyle's wearing his jersey, our East Coast teams mine is the Rangers, his is the Devils. Bragging on beating the Rangers right now is like bragging on beating the Blackhawks because they're almost one and the same right now. But hey, a win is a win, and they dismantled the Rangers. So, do you have something to say? I'll give you an opportunity to say something. Okay, fine. Go ahead.
Hey, it's good to be king.
Just for a day, as the lyric goes. All right, so let's talk about this Four Nations tournament, though, sir. We're getting the roster announcements on Wednesday in the afternoon. I think it was 2 o'clock or 2:30 Eastern or something like that. And I don't think we're not talking about it a lot as far as the rosters go, because I feel like the Avalanche players are set. They don't have any of those like fringe guys that are maybe they'll get in, maybe they won't. It'll be exciting if they do. We kind of know who's going for the Avs. And Devon Toews is going to be picked to go play for Team Canada. And under normal circumstances, you'd be like, yeah, that's great. He's back with his buddy and Cale Makar, who's also going to make it. But you heard, what was it, a couple weeks ago where Jared Bednar said that Toews is dealing with some nagging injury and something that he pretty much just came out and said something's going to be dealing with all season long. And that kind of made me think like, okay, well then should he skip the Four Nations tournament and get those 2 weeks to heal somewhat? Or does he go play? Because the guys want to do that. Guys want to play for their country. And this is brand new, but it's still something that they want to play for. He can skip it if he wants. I did get confirmation on that he can skip it. What do you think?
Now this is where it gets into that tricky, muddy conversation around hockey injuries and how they're classified. the nomenclature surrounding the UBI, LBI, BI, BS. This is one of those injuries that Taser, when he says he could play, it's just something he's going to deal with. Then if he's taking 2 weeks off, does that help or hurt the injury?
Exactly.
When he comes, like if he's propping as whatever BI he's propping up, will it make it worse? Will it make it better? Will being out on the ice just kind of help him manage through the pain? That's a question up to him. But if it's one of those that, hey, if I could get an extra day or two, just pull up limp the day before and say, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm sorry. And just skip it. Just be admirable about it. But if it's something that will help, I would implore Taser to take the time. But if it helps him get through, play double practice and backskate, buddy.
Yeah, that is the $1 million question is taking 2 weeks off. Will that heal you up to what percentage? Will that heal you up to like 95%? But if that only heals you up to 95%, and then you start playing on it again, even after 2 weeks, will you eventually go back to where you are now, currently? So that's the question that needs to be asked. Like, will it fully heal, and then you can play once the season gets back into the regular rotation, and it'll be fine, or doesn't matter? And if it doesn't matter, do you go play? Like, do you go play? Because this is it's also weird because it's a brand new tournament, but I don't think they really care that this is a new tournament. I think it's that, I get to represent my country. I'll represent my country in no matter what the tournament is. And so many of these guys have not been able to do that at all for their entire career because of, with the Olympics getting away from NHL players, and then COVID came into play when they said they were going to go back to NHL players. So many of these guys have not been able to do it. And this is their first opportunity to do it. If they want to bypass it, and you do have the Olympics waiting a year away, do you want to wait that year? I mean, so much could happen in that year, and who knows? Who's to say that you won't be injured around when that time comes around? So you don't want to take the chance, and you play in something new, something exciting, and you represent your country at the same time. So I think it all hinges on what you started the whole conversation with. What does 2 weeks off do for you? If it doesn't do much, I go play.
No, and I'll ask it to everybody who's listening and watching right now. Like, we just got through American Thanksgiving, and you had an extra day or two off of work, of your day job. How difficult was Monday? That was pretty. It was not fun. Like, you've done it the same rinse, wash, repeat your entire. But how was going back to work? Imagine somebody just kind of making it through, going through the motions, making it through game to game, takes 2 weeks off, propping up a leg or an arm or whatever's hurting, and then it comes back time to get out there and play NHL action. Is that a harder hill to climb? It's going to be solely up to him, and he knows the nature of where the Avalanche sit and how much that pride does mean for playing for your country. And like you mentioned, Chris, that carrot that's dangled, the Olympics are coming, and that's for a medal. This is not just a glorified exhibition. Like, the Olympics are the real deal. It's what you grow up kind of dreaming to play. Yeah. So you got to be discretionary about it.
I wonder what he's going to do. I like if they announce that, almost like an all-star game, like they announce that he is selected for it and then immediately name like an alternate or something for him if he doesn't want to do it. I don't know. I threw this out to the subtext crew. Got a lot of feedback. Lisa says, as a fan, I feel like the best thing he could do is take the time off. I want him well rested. That said, I understand if he wants to play. It's not very often a player gets a chance to play for their country. Overall, I enjoy watching players from my teams get to play for their country, but nagging injuries or not, I'm always concerned an injury could happen. The way the Avs luck is going, I want them all to sit for those 2 weeks.
Yep.
So she doesn't want Kale playing. She doesn't want MacKinnon playing, and that's always a thing with these tournaments outside of the league. What if something happens like during this thing? And so, and you hate mentioning that and bringing it up, but it's a reality. I think guys, they're not going to check as hard in games like this. You'll get some hits, of course, but I think they ease up a little bit because they know the commodity that they are to their actual team. So,
yeah, you would think you're going to be smart with it, but it just takes one turn, one wrong plant, and a toe pick on the ice, and we're having a different conversation around the nature of the game.
Katie, we're talking about him and his injury and where that stands. Katie has a different take on it, and she's thinking about where the Avs are in the standings. So she says, depends on where they are at the standings by then. If we're fighting for a playoff spot, I say rest up. If the wheels have officially come off and it's not realistic, then do the Four Nations tournament. So she's saying if it's not going the way of the Avs, and yeah, I mean, this is the beginning of February. So I don't really feel like you're going to throw the towel in at the beginning of February, unless, like she said, unless you're going through a Rangers run right now and you're way out of it and you just don't feel like anything's impossible. But you have a trade deadline that's about a month after this thing. So, but I get what she's saying. If she's saying if the wheels completely come off, if you just implode and you're in free fall and there is no hope of anything happening for the season, go play it.
Well, you know what, Katie, I like what you're thinking, and I'm going to carry this question and this observation to the last segment. I'm going to come back to this
when we got our central check-in. I like how you're going to do that. All right. Mark says he needs to sit and rest. Commitment to his team and his contract. Yeah, I mean that's always the argument. This goes back to the Olympics too. Owners didn't want that. That's why they pulled out of the Olympics previously, because owners were just like, these guys are worth too much money. But then it came back around and players were like, we want to go back to this thing. Like, we have a say in this too. We want to go back. So they put him back in, and then COVID happened. What do you think about that? Just honoring his contract to the team.
You know what? I don't want to tell Taser how to handle his life. He's an adult individual. Right. So if he says, I want to play, let him play. I'm not going to hold him to a contract, because we have other players on this team that, how that goes.
Yeah. And it is funny because, being the Avalanche and as injury prone as they are, Vargar says, if it was the Olympics, I'd go all bruised up and held together by duct tape. There you go. The Four Nations, I'd stay home. I'll watch the Four Nations, but it seems like a glorified all-star game. I'd rather watch the WJC. That's the other, this is brand new. So is it fun? Is it exciting? Sure. Does it hold the weight of the Olympics? No, nothing holds the weight of the Olympics. But you got to start somewhere with something like new and something like this. So I'm not going to hold it against the Four Nations of like, oh, you're not worthy of our Devon Toews. No, it's NHL players. It's representing your country. It's something new. And I think a lot of these guys, because they like I said before, because they haven't done it at all, they don't want to wait another year. We have an opportunity to do it now. I want to jump in on this thing. And I think Toews is feeling that same thing. And it all goes back to how we started this entire conversation about his injury and what the 2 weeks would do for him.
Yeah, because we got complacent like this when it came to the World Cup of Hockey, and we lost out on a lot of really good matchups that we could have seen representing their country. And with the health of Sid and Ovi, honestly, day to day, week to week, you never know if they're going to be around next year. You want to see as many fantasy matchups as you possibly can. I know it's not going to be as grand as the Olympics, but don't take for granted the possibility of the matchups that you get to see that you've always wanted to see, that you've never had the forum to see it. Exactly.
I mean, we're talking about it with MacKinnon and Crosby all the time. They're finally going to be able to do that. Not an all-star game. I don't care about the all-star game. Like something like this, it's different. So we'll see. The announcement is on Wednesday. So, and I don't know if it's something that's going to happen immediately, like announced it, or if he's still thinking about it. I have no idea. But just because this announcement is coming, I figured to bring it up now. And if we something that he would want to just skip, but that's a tough decision, and I'm glad I'm not in his position to have to make that. All right, let's get our first break in. We come back. We're going to talk about this road trip that starts in Buffalo. Let's do that next. First, we're going to hear from Prize Picks. It's the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. All you got to do is make a pick of more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash, and where you can run your game all season long over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup is not perfect, and you can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. I don't know if you did anything with the Monday night game for Prize Picks, but you can. I think they had Bo Nix up there. They had Courtland Sutton up there, which I think is over already by halftime. I think he already went over for Courtland Sutton. So that's the good thing about it. Like on the Monday night game, and the Broncos are in, you're going to be getting options for Broncos that you can pick more or less on. So if you're high on the Broncos, which a lot of people are right now, go over on a lot of the Bronco guys. So download the app right now. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That code is LOCKEDONNHL for $50 automatically after you play your first $5 lineup. That's over at Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, we talked about the December schedule on yesterday's episode, and it starts with the road trip, 5-game road trip. First one is in Buffalo. So we'll talk about what constitutes a successful road trip in total. And again, those games are Buffalo, Carolina, a back-to-back against Detroit and New Jersey, and you're finishing up with Pittsburgh. But you're going into Buffalo right now, and yet again, the Buffalo Sabres are that team where everybody's thinking like this is the year that they make a jump. Maybe not so much heading into this year. I think people just got tired of saying that year after year after year. And it kind of came down to, well, they'll be better. we stopped doing we're going to throw them into the playoffs finally. And we've kind of gone to, they'll be a better team. Are they right now? Yeah, I think at this stage in the game they are, because they've been really bad for a long time. And I think they're sitting at 500 right now, which by December is not terrible for them, the way that things have been going over the last 15 years for this team. So where are they? They're in 5th right now in the Atlantic. They're in 5th. They're only 2 points behind Tampa Bay, while Tampa Bay does have a game in hand on them. And they are 3 points behind the Bruins, and they have 2 games in hand on the Bruins. So they're 11-11-2. However, they have lost 3 in a row. So, this is one of those things where it's like you're going into their arena. They want to stop a losing streak, and you want to get off to a good start on a road trip. How are you thinking this thing goes?
Much like the Colorado Avalanche, the Sabres have had injury problems as well. The goalie play has not been ideal. And like the Sabres just don't have that star power to bail them out. Tage Thompson has cooled off, and it's not the sideshow that it was maybe a year or two ago that you were tuning in to see what he can do. The league has figured him out, and they figured out the Sabres, and they're 500 in the Atlantic. I mean, that's not saying much.
It's not going to get you much, but I mean, it's a good division. I mean, you have obviously the Stanley Cup champions there. Toronto is, they're right up there. Toronto's right on their heels. Is it as strong as years? I mean, no, you have the Bruins who are, they already fired their coach. And the Lightning are hanging tough right now, but I'm not saying I'm impressed by the Sabres, but at least they're just not on the bottom looking up at everybody at this stage in the game.
I say this, and I'm speaking to the Burgundy and Blue here. This is where you get the start. This is where you set the tone, not just for the 60 minutes that you play against Buffalo, but the rest of this road trip. This is and you get to, really show out against former Colorado Avalanche Stanley Cup champion Abe Kubel. He is a member of the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah.
He can't drop anything here, and he can't ding the cup.
Yeah.
But this is where you want to set the tempo. Like, you have to get out strong. You have to play a 60 here, because we're done justifying losses and saying, they could have had this one. No, this is one you should have. And when you should have it, you should go get it. And this is where you need to do it, starting here. We shouldn't have a sad, dejected post game. No,
Yeah.
with the talent the Avalanche have, healthy asterisks, they should win this game. There should be no excuses on why they should not.
Well, injuries are really the only excuse why they should not. But it's funny, like the Sabres, they're 500 team, right? What are they? 11-11-2 right now.
Make a wish.
And everywhere that they are team-wide in the team rankings is like mid-level.
Yeah.
Everything that they do is either somewhere in the middle or lower. And so nothing jumps out the page at you. They do everything okay. They do everything average. So, but they have players that I really like on this team. They do. Rasmus Dahlin is one of the most criminally underrated defensemen in the league. We talk about Mikko Rantanen and how he's one of the most underrated players in the league. The Sabres have that gripe for Dahlin, I feel like. I really like Tage Thompson. I was begging the Avalanche to draft JJ Peterka in his draft year, begging them. And he's turning out to be pretty good. They have, Owen Power hasn't really fully come into his own yet, but he's getting there. And then you got Byram, who's always going to be attached to the Avalanche. They have the makings of a good team. It's just taking a lot slower than people wanted to, but I think they finally have got like a good base of good, solid players. Are they good enough to be a fully healthy Avalanche team? No, but I don't think there's going to be a walk in the park. I really don't. I think like they are healthier than the Avalanche. And the Avs, sure, you got your big three in there. You'll be in most games. But do I think the Avalanche should win this thing? I do, but I do not think this is going to be an easy game for the Avs, because the Sabres are a good defensive team. They don't score a ton. And I was looking at Dahlin's, where was it here? His share of ice time, he's at 40, almost 42%, where most guys are like in the 30. So he's out there all the time. Don't we know how that goes? So it's, I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a close one, a lot closer than maybe you think.
And it's crazy that you have a team. I don't know if he's going to be healthy for the game, but Jordan Greenway and Bowen Byram on the same team makes me physically sick. And it's hard to cheer against a goalie named Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen.
Yeah, it's one of the best names in the sport. Yeah.
And they're really going to make this hard on me if they come out in the black and red Buffalo Sabres sweaters. That's going to make it.
Did they say that they were?
I don't know, but if that game comes on and I see those sweaters, I'm going to be instantly torn and brokenhearted when we beat them 6-2.
And when do we think we get Scott Wedgwood on this? Is it not until the back-to-back?
I would say
on the weekend.
So.
Yeah,
I would say so.
Maybe not, I would maybe guess the second game. Usually that's how that goes. So, talking about that, what is a successful road trip? I mean, I think the easy answer is 3-2. So you have a winning. I think that's always what you want. You always want that. It's very difficult to say, we should be 4-1-0 on a 5-game road trip. So the easy answer is yes. You win more than you lose on the road. That's 2 thumbs up. If you look at the opponents, Buffalo, while I think it's going to be a close game, I think you can win this game. In Carolina, that's a tough game. Detroit, they're kind of similar to what Buffalo is doing. Devils, that's the second game of a back-to-back, and the Devils are playing great hockey. And then Pittsburgh. So I think your 3 wins, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and Detroit. And if you're going to lose 2, it would be to the 2 better teams in this 5-game road trip in Carolina and New Jersey.
No, I need, and we'll talk about this in the next segment. The Avs need to go 4-1.
They need to go 5-0.
Well, they need to go 5-0.
Yeah.
They need to, but 4-1. Because that's, if you drop one, it's going to be probably on that back-to-back, or it's going to be Carolina or New Jersey. But you have to start setting tempo, and you have to start really getting above 500. You can't accept Buffalo type success. The Avs really have to start digging now. They have to start climbing. And this team, bond, get together on this road trip, kind of sort out a pecking order on where the authority lies on this team. And they have to get to business. Like a 3-2 road trip, it's just kicking the can down the road. You're not getting any better. You have to start getting better. If you want a playoff spot, it starts now.
Just quickly do some predictions from subtext. Madam Battleaxe, she says, I see the boys being very shaky in the beginning, but getting better in the second. I don't think they'll overcome mental blocks. I unfortunately think they're going to fall to the Sabres. She says 4-2 in favor of Buffalo. Lisa says, I'd like to see Wedgwood in goal, but she thinks the Avs will win 3-2. Katie says 4-2 Avalanche. So if we cannot win against Buffalo, then all hope is really lost. Don't take Buffalo lightly, people. I'm telling you, it's not your same old Sabres. It's not amazing Sabres, but it's not scraping the bottom of the barrel Sabres. But I think that's where people are still looking at Buffalo as like, if we lose to them, that's like losing to San Jose. Not the same. Although San Jose is playing pretty good hockey lately.
We've already lost to Columbus this year. I don't know what we're talking about here.
And Vargar 7-4 Colorado, and he says MacKinnon gets 2, Mikko gets 2, Makar, MacKinnon, and Middlestat all get one as well.
I like it.
7-4. So there we go. All right, so that's start of the road trip. We get our last break in, and we'll kind of just run down the Central, see how things are standing right now in the division of the Colorado Avalanche. Let's hear from FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get that hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, so let's finish things up today with checking in over on the Central Division. How do you want to go from the bottom? What are you feeling?
Well,
all right, we'll start with the bottom. You want to do the bottom? Start with the bottom?
Yeah, bottom.
Start with the bottom. Now we're here. Okay, let's go. So you look at the bottom. You weren't expecting that, were you?
Oh,
Blackhawks are obviously, in last place here. That really is no surprise. I think the surprise is like just the frustration of Connor Bedard and kind of moving him around now. And they got to get guys around him. It's not going to happen this year, but they need to have an off season where it's like, okay, like we got to stop messing around and we got to start protecting this kid a little bit more. So it's going to be a struggle for the Blackhawks this year. I don't think he thought it was going to be this much of a struggle, but it is. And if they don't do something to address some of the depth on this team, they're going to have a much longer road ahead than just this 5-year plan that they have for him. So
boo hoo hoo, cry me a river.
I know.
Get over it, Bedard. You got the spotlight. Do something with it.
I don't put all that blame on him, though, for that spotlight, but I get it. The funny thing is, though, when you look at this and you see, the Blackhawks at the bottom, you expect that. You don't expect the Predators to be the team above them with only 2 more points than the Blackhawks. That is what's just glaring on this Central Division right now. Yes, the Blackhawks have a game in hand on them, so they could essentially tie them. And their next game, I don't think they're playing right now as I'm checking scores. They are, and they just lost. So they lost to the Maple Leafs. So they're not going to tie. They're not going to tie the Predators as far as points go. But what's up, man? Like now is it? It's got to be panic time. Like we've said this with the Avalanche of like they just got to hold their head above water, wait for guys to return from injury. We've said that in past seasons, and it's worked for them. And Nashville is just doing the opposite. They're just going in the wrong direction, man, and they're just running out of time. They're running out of time because you not only have to get back to playing good hockey, but you have to start like jumping over these teams ahead of you, and they've just lost 4 in a row. I don't know, like it is panic. It's panic time in Nashville. It really is.
I like it. I love it. I want some more of it. I'm going to sing it now because you'll never hear it in the goal song. But they got rid of Ryjo a couple years ago, and that was the beginning of this weird vibe around Nashville. And they've tried putting pieces in there, and nothing's working. Like nobody wants to take that step up and say, this is my team and this is how we're going to contribute. And it's just a lot of guys just throwing their hands up saying, I don't know. And they're in the position they are because this team has no heart and really no leadership. And it's interesting to see, but hey, you guys struggle. That gives the Avalanche just a little bit of a spot in the standing.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not crying any tears over it, but and hindsight's always 20/20. But the way that this team finished last year, on that incredible run to make the playoffs, you look back on it now and it's like, should you really have made all of those moves that you made and really change the dynamic of this team?
Yeah.
Because you could have kept a lot of that team together. Great and point. They would have felt good about going into this season on how they finished last season. Hey, let's just keep that up and we'll just keep that rolling, just with an off season mixed in the middle of it. But what they did, they went out and signed a ton of players, a ton of good players. But this is where it's like, does it always mesh? You're seeing the answer, at least for this team right now. So I don't know. I just don't think they can overcome how poorly they're playing right now and find their way back into a playoff spot.
They get used to this.
Yeah, they do. They do. He'll turn it around for him. If he does, I'm just quitting this podcast. You got the Blues and Utah. They're tied for points with 24, but Utah has a game in hand on St. Louis. Me in Utah, I thought they were going to be in the mix. They're at least showing you they are. St. Louis, I mean, it's kind of right around where I thought those two teams would be. But Utah is an exciting team to watch.
Utah, no comment. Thank you for mentioning the Blues because I forgot they existed.
Yeah.
It's a quiet season, extremely quiet season for St. Louis.
Well, I mean, the news with the head coach is kind of, let's see where it goes from there.
Yeah.
So I don't like how that happened. I understand why it happened, but I'm just not a fan of when things like, whatever. We'll move on. Skip over the Avalanche and go to the top 3. And yes, right now, as far as they're tied in points, but with points percentage and game in hand, Minnesota Wild are now in first place in the Central.
Salt in the wound.
It's crazy, man. It is crazy. And so the Jets have come back down to earth a little bit. They've lost 3 in a row. The Wild have caught them. They still have, and this is what we were saying about a good start for them. That incredible start they had will keep them up for a while because they've lost 3 in a row. They're still 6 points up on Dallas, who's in third. And Dallas is going to be there. They're a solid team. They're going to be in the mix, no doubt. Now the question is, how long can Minnesota keep this going? Like nobody saw that happening.
No.
And Kaprizov's just having a incredible season. He's probably the Hart favorite right now. He keeps that going. He gets them into the playoffs. He has the Hart Trophy locked up. If he gets the Minnesota Wild into a playoff spot, are you kidding me? That will probably be a runaway Hart Trophy win for Kaprizov, no doubt.
And Krill the Thrill has the advantage of both sides of special teams working for him as well, which that must be nice. Tell me what that's like, Krill the Thrill. That must be a wonderful problem to have.
Mm-hmm.
But let 1 and 2 fight it out. where the Avalanche are sitting right now in the Central, they need to work on those 4 points to catch up to Dallas. And they need to start working their way up piece by piece and let the top, like, you've seen Winnipeg come back down to earth. As Batman said, do you bleed? Winnipeg does. And they are human. So they had a record start to the season. They're coming back down to earth. The Avs just need to start. That's why I said, like, the 4-1 road trip. This is where you start catching up ground. You have to start now, because if you're going to keep middling, you're not going to be as bad as the basement of the Central. But can you hang in that top 3? I don't think so right now. And the Avs have to start proving it, starting with Buffalo.
Yeah, I think, I hate to say it, but I think the Avs are the 4th best team in the Central right now.
Yep.
They are. They're not better than Dallas. They're not better than Winnipeg. Crazy as it sounds, they're not better than Minnesota right now. So they are right where they should be. Can they turn that around? Absolutely they can, but it's got to start at some point. It's got to start. Yeah, let's see if it happens in Buffalo. So, all right, we're gonna watch that game, and then we're gonna finish this and go and watch the end of the Broncos game. At least I am. I don't know about you, but and then we'll be back.
Parade.
Yeah. We'll be back tomorrow to discuss this game and how it went down, break it all down, and anything else that happens in Avs Nation. So that's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, making this your first listen of the day. Always appreciate it. He's Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys tomorrow. And yeah, you just made it through another 24 hours where Sidney Crosby is one day closer to becoming a Colorado Avalanche.
No.